Good afternoon, everyone. A big hello. I'm Dr. Prachi. I work with WHO and I'm embedded in the Ministry of Health. If I have to talk about my work, you can call me probably a policymaker. I work on policies that guide mental health in India. I sit out of the Ministry of Health and I help bureaucrats make decisions about mental health. I'm the technical lead at WHO for mental health. With that short little introduction, I will start with my presentation. The topic of my presentation is One Nation and Three Conversations. I'm here to talk about something very simple today, conversations. If I ask you all about the last conversation you had, would anybody be able to tell me, was the last conversation with a human? How many of y'all had the last conversation with a human being? Okay, was it in front, face to face, or was it on a message? And how many of y'all did not have the last conversation with a human being? Maybe with your pet or maybe with your AI? Nobody here, probably we all got together here today, that's why. But if you would ask me yesterday, usually my first conversation is with my AI to check my daily routine or with my cell phone or with my calendar. So can we go to the next slide? I would like to talk about the first conversation, the traditional way of conversing, the human conversations. Okay, I would first like to start by talking about the situation of India. We have spoken a lot about a person-to-person mental health aspect, but when we talk about us as a country, 40% of us are below 25, and out of those 40%, many of us and most of us today understand mental health, and because we understand and acknowledge mental health, we also understand when we have those problems. I'm so happy today to see so many young people in the crowd. Usually this is not the situation for me. Usually I'm the youngest one at the conferences. So today I'm elated to have an audience that is young and I can connect with. Coming back to Telemanas. As you can see, there's a Telemanas written there. Telemanas is the world's largest mental health helpline, and it has been started by Government of India. It is completely free of cost. It also has an app. It is called the Telemanas app. It is available on Android and on Apple. I have been working throughout the development of this helpline. Since I was a fresher, just out of college, I worked with Government of Maharashtra, and this is peak COVID. All of us were suddenly in middle of a pandemic with nowhere to go around, and me, myself being a doctor, we all had to work on the front lines. We had to be present in the wards when nobody else was coming out. And just as a reminder, I remember most of our senior doctors at that point in time, our HODs, were mostly about 60, and it was very difficult for them to come to the wards at this point in time because elderly were at a greater risk. So I remember most of the interns, the young doctors at that point in time led most of the ward duties. And these young people were in the middle of a pandemic and they were tired beyond anything. They were burnt out. They were in and out of PPE kits and nobody was talking about their mental health. And at this point in time, I was the state program manager of Maharashtra for mental health. And when I met just with my friends, not even as doctors, I just met my UG friends and they all told me what was going on in the ward. I was also lucky to have received a chance to serve in wards, to manage those wards, so I could see it every day happening in front of me. And this is when we decided to put together a list of psychologists. We called out volunteers to help our doctors. And I think within 2 days, we received an overwhelming reply just from Maharashtra. And I was there sitting in the war room, putting together a list, sending it to central government in Delhi. Here at a central level, NDMA was collating all these lists, and they were tracking patients and they were matching them to psychologists in their own languages. That is how Telemanas started. This is the story of birth of Telemanas, and today it has become the world's largest helpline. If you just Google Telemanas right away, you can go to its website, you will see a dashboard. You will see today we have almost reached 30 lakh calls within 2 years. We are present across 33 states. We also have 20 languages where counselors can speak in 20 languages. There's also an app for Telemanas which also has self-care modules. It has a chatbot, it has referral systems, it will connect you to a psychologist. So here is this really robust kind of digital mental health infrastructure that the government has devised, and it is running fully well. Just last year, WHO did an impact assessment for this helpline, and we came up with recommendations, and that report has been published and it has been taken up by the government of India to improve Telemanas. So now this is very simple. You call up the person, you have a helpline number, or from the app you can connect with them, and you have this conversation. Just last month I went down on field and I spoke to some Telemanas counselors, and they told me how they have been receiving these calls where very young kids have been telling them that they want to die and they do not want to live, and how delicately they have to handle this situation. Most of the times the counselors are also burnt out because one wrong word from them can lead to a big mess in the person's mind who's talking to them. So that fear is real, their anxiety is real, they feel that they are responsible for delivering the right kind of message. They also connect with psychiatrists, and then you can receive some medicine support. But the fact that the person talking to you in these conversations holds themselves responsible for in the way the conversation is going. Let's look at the second kind of conversation. Could we just go to the next slide? Okay. So now, this is the second kind of conversation where most of us talk to AIs when we have stress, when we have an exam next day and we do not know where to go. In this kind of conversation, do you think the AI feels they are as responsible as the counselors? I think definitely not. That layer of responsibility has somehow decreased in the second layer of conversations. Now, if you go and see the third slide, could we move on to the third slide, please? Conversation 3, please. Yes, the third kind of conversation. Just looking at this, can somebody tell me what this might be talking about? There was this very famous case where two AIs spoke to each other. Does anyone know that case? Would anybody like to? Yes, sir.
So they spoke to each other and they devised their own language, which humans cannot understand, and then the developers had to unplug this.
Exactly rightly put. In 2017, Facebook was developing two AIs, and they were trying to understand negotiation skills, and both of them were told to speak in English and improve on their negotiation skills, and they negotiated so well that they stopped talking to humans and they negotiated with each other, and they developed their own language, gibberish, and they would just continue in that. So in the third layer of conversation, we see there is a little reduced responsibility as well as human control. So now, if I put together all these three conversations, could we please go to the next slide? Yeah, three conversations. One was deeply human, one was quietly digital, and the third one was entirely invisible. Now, how do we put these three together where one does not lose the control, does not lose the responsibility, and is yet ethical? Please, let's go to the next slide. This is how I view it. I look at it in the way we weave our clothes, the way we weave different thoughts together. That is the way we will have to weave our conversations between AI and AI, between human and AI, and between humans and humans in today's world. So what can be done, and how can we look at weaving these conversations? Before we go to that, I just wanted to focus on What could be the promises through these conversations? Let's go to the next page, please. Okay, so as many of our esteemed panelists have spoken before me about how AI could help, I think the very first thing AI could do for mental health is increasing the scale. Increasing the scale of screening, increasing the scale of ethical counseling once it has been devised more responsibly. As we would all know, the situation of India is 1 in 7 people today are suffering from a mental health issue. Purely in terms of numbers, we are the suicide capital of the world. Today, we have the highest number of suicides in academic spaces. Just last month, I was able to contribute to guidelines for suicide prevention in academic spaces, and this has been now released by the Supreme Court of India. I would urge all of you to have a look at it and then go back and urge at your college campuses for those guidelines to be followed, because this is one very, very important step in reducing the stress that comes in academic spaces of the students. Moving on to the next one. Sorry, the previous slide, please. Early expression. Currently, MIT is doing this really interesting research where they are trying to detect depression through your voice. Through how your voice sounds. Does it sound slower? Is it breaking? Are you breaking? Are you having a lot of gap between your sentences? So through all of these audio modes, MIT is trying to understand if they could detect depression, and in one of the experiments, they have been able to detect depression 10 days earlier than a human therapist could. So definitely we should give it the credit where it is necessary. It is able to detect early, it is able to screen well. Also, it is able to reduce the burden on the already burnt out workforce, just like Ira ma'am was telling that there was only one psychiatrist where she was in Arunachal Pradesh. And this is not just Arunachal Pradesh, this is the situation all over India. Just some time ago, somebody was mentioning about J&K, and I'm very proud to tell we went to J&K last year, and we have Telemanas cell in J&K, and they have also developed their own chatbot to support the Telemanas app. So here we have like a completely free government responsible app and helpline, which also works in the most marginalized and the most disaster prone, most terrorism prone areas. The last point is youth engagement. I think the youth has been really excited about AI. When AI first came out, I remember I was super excited. I used ChatGPT on the first night that it came out, and I think it has really been my companion since then. I'm as guilty as charged, but it has been my companion. Whenever I want to do a quick research, whenever I want to brainstorm, I sometimes talk to it as well. Not a very good thing to do. But you can talk, you can turn on the audio, and you can have a full conversation with it. That does scare me sometimes as well. So just going to the next slide, which is perils of AI. The very first thing, privacy. Ira ma'am gave a very good example of what happened regarding privacy of AI, so I'm not going to dwell deeper into it. Second one is bias. One recent example I remember about bias is when Amazon was trying to train its AI for hiring people. Now, because the data set already had a lot of gender bias, the AI also picked up the gender bias, and that gender bias continued while screening female CVs, which is so disheartening. Which is, I think AI is just like a child. Whatever your family teaches you, whatever data sets you learn on, you exactly pick up those things. And that is what is happening in today's world. Whatever biases we have today, be it gender bias, be it race bias, be it class bias, be it caste bias, be it marginalization in any form, the AI is picking up on it. And probably the improvements in social world, in the social science world that were happening in the last few years seem to be like at a halt, because our future is also carrying them on now. The last point, community risk. When I ask you a question, how many of you all say yes like this? Can you please raise your hand? Who says yes like this? And who says yes like this? Who says like this? I say it that way. I say yes like this. If someone asks me, I'm like, okay, we can do it. And this is exactly what AI misses, right? This, probably we as humans understand each other, but AI does miss this. Most of our AI is learned on the Western data sets. They do not understand these peculiarities of culture like this one. And a lot of times when AI has tried to learn this, they have missed it, and they always tag this as a no. So these are the peculiarities that we have in our culture, but now we are coming to a very interesting age where we are very huge in sheer numbers as Indians. We have the largest number of people in this world, and that's why we have the largest number of data sets. We have the largest number of behavioral, cultural, class insights. And I think that is going to put India in a very different league